The hospital bracelet was still on my wrist when I pressed play on the voicemail. I'd just woken up from emergency surgery, a ruptured appendix that nearly killed me, and my phone showed 17 missed calls from unknown numbers, but none from the one person I'd been asking the nurses to contact for the past 6 hours. My son, Daniel. But what came through the speaker made my blood freeze. "Mom, seriously, you need to stop." His voice was sharp, irritated. "I'm at a work dinner with the partners, and you've called me 9 times.
9.
Jessica had to step away because her phone kept lighting up. "It's embarrassing. Whatever it is, it can wait. I'll call you next week sometime. And please, please, learn some boundaries." The message had been left 4 hours ago, while I was in surgery, while they were cutting me open because the infection had spread and the doctor said another hour might have been too late. I listened to it 3 times, lying in that hospital bed with tubes in my arms, trying to make the words mean something different. Trying to find the part where my son, my brilliant, successful son who I'd raised alone, who I'd worked double shifts to put through law school, cared whether I lived or died. But I didn't know then that this voicemail would be the kindest thing he'd say to me. I didn't know that what I'd discover would reveal he wasn't just embarrassed by me. He'd been planning to destroy everything I'd built. And the real reason he wasn't answering had nothing to do with work dinners. My name is Margaret Chen, and for 53 years, I'd done everything right. I'd immigrated from Hong Kong when I was 19, pregnant, and alone. I'd worked as a seamstress in Queens, then eventually bought my own alteration shop. Nothing fancy, just a small storefront, but it was mine. Every stitch I sewed was for Daniel. Every extra hour was for his future. When he got into Columbia Law, I cried for 3 days. When he landed his position at Morrison & Fitch, one of Manhattan's top law firms, I finally felt like all those years of sacrifice meant something. We'd always been close. He'd call every Sunday, visit once a month. After he married Jessica, a polished corporate consultant who smiled with her mouth but never her eyes, the visits became less frequent. But I understood. Marriage was an adjustment. The appendix situation happened on a Wednesday in October. When Mrs. Rodriguez from next door found me collapsed in my shop, everything happened fast. Ambulance, emergency room, surgery. "Emergency contact?" the nurse asked. "My son," I whispered, giving her Daniel's number. She tried. I heard her in the hallway. "Mr. Chen? This is Mount Sinai Hospital about your mother." "Yes, it's quite serious. We need you to—" "Hello? Hello?" When I woke up and found that voicemail, something cracked inside me. I was released 3 days later. Mrs. Rodriguez drove me home. My phone stayed silent. I didn't call Daniel. Some wounded part of me decided that if my son couldn't be bothered to check on me after emergency surgery, I wasn't going to chase him anymore. 2 weeks passed. My savings drained paying for rent and medication. Still, nothing from Daniel. On the 16th day, I broke. I called his office. "Morrison & Fitch. How may I direct your call?" "Daniel Chun, please." A pause. "May I ask who's calling?" "His mother." Another pause. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but Mr. Chen has left instructions that he's not to be disturbed by personal calls during business hours." I hung up, my hands shaking. That night, I took the spare key Daniel had given me years ago and took the subway into Manhattan. My incision burned with every step, but I didn't care. I needed to understand. Their building doorman recognized me and waved me through. I took the elevator to the 14th floor and used the key. The apartment was dark except for a light from the study. I could hear voices, Daniel and Jessica, arguing. I should have knocked, but something in their tone made me freeze, listening. "Your mother is becoming a problem," Jessica was saying. The partners' wives at the dinner wouldn't stop asking about her calls. "It made you look unprofessional." "I know. I sent her that voicemail. She should get the message." "Should, but will she? Your mother has always been clingy." The word hit me like a slap. She raised me alone, Jess. I can't just cut her off. I'm not saying cut her off. I'm saying establish boundaries. You're a partner track attorney. Your mother running an alteration shop in Queens. It doesn't fit the image we're building. When we have children, I don't want them exposed to that immigrant mentality. The silence that followed was the worst part, because Daniel didn't defend me, just sighed and said, "You're right. I'll handle it." I stood there, my heart shattering, realizing everything I thought I knew about my son was a lie. That's when I saw it. On the console table, a stack of mail, an envelope addressed to me, forwarded from Daniel's office. I picked it up. It was from Mount Sinai Hospital, the surgery bill, but it had been opened and stamped in red ink, account assigned to collections. The date was 2 weeks old. Daniel had received this bill, saw that his mother owed $32,000, and let it go to collections without saying a word. But what I found clipped to the back of that bill, that's what broke me completely. A document that revealed my son had been planning something that would destroy everything I'd built. The document was a legal consultation letter, dated 3 months earlier. Adult conservatorship proceedings for Margaret Chen. I read it 3 times before the words made sense. My son had been consulting attorneys about declaring me mentally incompetent, about taking legal control of my finances, my decisions, my entire life. The letter outlined the strategy. Document concerning behavior. Gather medical records suggesting cognitive decline. Establish a pattern of poor decision-making. The evidence? That I still ran a shop instead of retiring. That I sometimes forgot to return calls. That I'd once paid a bill twice by accident. Normal things, reframed as symptoms of incompetence. This wasn't about embarrassment. This was about control. I shoved the papers into my purse and slipped out as footsteps approached. When I got home, I spread all my documents across my kitchen table. Bank statements, the deed to my shop, my will that left everything to Daniel. I didn't sleep. Instead, I hired a private investigator. His name was Marcus. I paid him $500 I couldn't afford. Find out what my son is hiding. 4 days later, Marcus called me in. "Mrs. Chun, you should sit down." He slid a folder across the desk. Photographs, bank statements, property records. Daniel and Jessica had bought a second apartment in Miami, a $3 million penthouse. They'd purchased it 8 months ago with a $600,000 down payment. Where did they get that money? I whispered. Marcus looked grim. "Your son's been borrowing against his inheritance." "What inheritance? I'm not dead." "Exactly. But he listed your shop and your savings, approximately $400,000, as collateral for a private loan. He told lenders you'd agreed to transfer everything within the year. That's fraud." "It is. But here's the worst part." Marcus pulled out another document. 6 weeks ago, Daniel filed preliminary conservatorship paperwork. If it goes through, he controls your assets. That loan becomes legitimate. My own son was systematically stealing my life. "There's more," Marcus said quietly. "Your son's been telling people you're sick. His colleagues, Jessica's family, everyone thinks you have early onset dementia. They think he's being a devoted son. But that's not even the worst thing. Because Marcus handed me one more photograph, and when I saw it, I realized someone I trusted was helping Daniel destroy me. The photo showed Daniel having coffee with my accountant, Robert Wu, the man I'd trusted for a decade, both smiling. "This was taken 2 months before the conservatorship consultation," Marcus said. I pulled Mr. Wu's financial records. "He's been receiving monthly payments from your son, $5,000 each time. My accountant had been selling information about me to my son. They've been planning this for at least a year." I walked out in a daze. When I got home, I locked myself in my bathroom and fell apart. That night, I decided to fight back. The next morning, I withdrew every penny, all $400,000. I opened new accounts at a different bank under my maiden name. Then I transferred my shop's deed into a trust Daniel couldn't touch. It took 3 days to secure everything. Then I called Robert Wu. "Margaret, how are you feeling?" "I know about the payments, Robert. I know everything. You have 24 hours to wire back every dollar, or I'm filing a complaint with the state accounting board." The money appeared the next day. 2 weeks later, Daniel finally called. His voice was warm, concerned. "Mom, I'm so sorry I haven't been in touch. But I was thinking, why don't you come stay with Jessica? and me for a few weeks. You're probably still recovering." Every word was poison disguised as love. "That's very kind, but I'm fine. Actually, Mom, I've been worried about you, running that shop at your age. Maybe it's time to think about retiring. Just come stay with us. I've even spoken to a financial advisor about setting up a retirement plan for you." A retirement plan he would control. "I'll think about it." "Great. I'll pick you up Saturday." But 3 days before Saturday, I received a phone call that revealed the truth wasn't just about money. There was a deeper reason Daniel wanted me gone. And when I learned what it was, I realized he wasn't just stealing from me. He was planning to erase me completely. The call came from an unknown number. A young woman's voice. "Mrs. Chin? My name is Sarah. I'm a paralegal at Morrison and Fitch. I work with your son." She took a shaky breath. "I think you should know what's really happening. Can we meet?" We met at a coffee shop in Chelsea. Sarah was 26, nervous. "I could lose my job for this. But I can't watch him do this to you." "Do what?" "I already know about the conservatorship." "It's not just that." Sarah showed me her phone. 6 months ago, Jessica's father offered Daniel a position at his private equity firm. Partner level, 7-figure salary. But there's a condition. My hands went numb. The firm has a specific image. Old money, establishment families. Jessica's father told Daniel that his background was a concern. That having a mother who runs an alteration shop in Queens who speaks with an accent, it doesn't fit. They want him to distance himself completely. Everything suddenly made sense. "Daniel's been telling people you're declining because it's easier than admitting he's abandoning you," Sarah continued. "The conservatorship was Jessica's idea, a way to look like a good son while removing you from his life. Once you're under his legal control, he can put you in a care facility upstate. Somewhere far away where Jessica's father's friends will never encounter you. He's going to lock me away." There's more. I found documents in Daniel's office. Memory care facilities. Places for patients with severe cognitive impairment who can't leave. My son was planning to bury me alive in an institution for a job that required erasing where he came from. "Why are you telling me this?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Because my grandmother raised me alone too. She was an immigrant. And when she got sick, my father put her in a home and forgot about her. She died alone, confused." Her voice broke. "I can't watch it happen again. That night, I called Marcus. I need you to do something. And it has to be perfect." Saturday came. Daniel arrived exactly on time, smiling. We drove to Manhattan making small talk. At the apartment, Jessica greeted me with fake warmth. We sat in their living room. "So," Daniel began, "we wanted to talk about your future. About making sure you're taken care of." "We found a wonderful place upstate," Jessica added. "Beautiful grounds, full medical staff, memory care." "I don't have memory problems." Daniel stayed carefully sympathetic. "Mom, I know it's hard to see, but you've been showing signs. The incident where I nearly died and you ignore my calls because I was embarrassing you?" Silence. "Is any of this fair, Daniel?" I stood up. "The conservatorship petition? The loan using my property as collateral? The plan to commit me so Jessica's father won't be ashamed of where you came from?" Jessica went white. Daniel's face cycled through shock and fear. "I don't know what you... I know everything." I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Marcus had recorded them 3 nights ago. Their voices were crystal clear, discussing the timeline, get me to sign documents while confused, then call a paid-off evaluator. Once she's committed, no one will believe anything she says. We can be in Miami by spring. I watched my son's face as he realized I'd known everything. "The conservatorship will be denied," I said calmly. "I have documentation from 3 doctors confirming my competence. The loan you took is fraud. I've reported it. Robert Wu returned the money and gave a sworn statement. And this recording? I've sent copies to the ethics board at Morrison and Fitch." "Mom, please." Daniel stood, desperate. "You don't understand the pressure. I understand you were willing to cage your own mother so you could pretend you're something you're not." My voice broke. "Everything I sacrificed meant nothing to you." "That's not true." Don't lie to me anymore. I walked to the door and looked at him one last time. He was crying, but I felt nothing. You know what's saddest? I would have given you everything willingly. All you had to do was love me back. I left and never looked back. 6 months later, I'm still running my shop in Queens. Business is better. People like supporting someone who fought back. I heard Daniel didn't get the position at Jessica's father's firm. The ethics investigation raised too many questions. Jessica filed for divorce 3 months ago. I'd like to say it brings peace, but mostly I feel empty. I don't regret protecting myself, but I grieve the son I thought I had. Maybe in my determination to give Daniel everything, I'd forgotten to teach him that people aren't disposable just because loving them is inconvenient. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about me, if he regrets it, but mostly I just keep sewing, one stitch at a time. And if you're listening because someone made you feel like a burden, you're not alone. I thought if I just loved hard enough, it would be enough. But you can't force someone to value you. That's not a reflection of your worth. You deserve better than to be someone's secret shame. We all do. Some stories end, but others begin right here. Keep growing with the telling tree. Like, subscribe, and stay